let's move on to the Colts. Colts at 4-12-1, only one win better than the team we just talked about. They also have a 6.5 Vegas win total as well, which is a lofty goal. I think this is actually a team that, if they don't get Jonathan Taylor back this season, which we'll talk briefly on him because there's not a lot to say until things become clear, they're a worse team, and that thing's going to go down. So they were 8th in passing attempts last year, but 20th in passing yards. Another team high in volume, low in efficiency, and low in production. Again, without Jonathan Taylor last year, they were 18th in rushing attempts and 23rd in rushing yards. So, these were a mirror image of a team, the two of them. Now you got Anthony Richardson as the number one QB coming off the board for them. Obviously, Gardner Minshew is there as well. And I think they've all but pretty much decided that Richardson's going to be the starter. He's going 110 overall,
according
QB
to today's
16.
depth chart. According to today's depth chart, Minshew is still the number one.
Yes. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't even be surprised if Minshew starts game one. I wouldn't be surprised, but we should have more clarity.
Start the entire season. For the betterment of Anthony Richardson and the Colts for the future, I think Minshew should start this year.
But I just don't see them doing
offense, that. Let me. I know, but let me put a caveat on everything that we're going to talk about right now. Is that's what I think they should do, because Anthony Richardson, yes, he's very talented, but he's raw. He's a raw talent, and so you draft him high. Do you want to ruin that by throwing him into a scenario where your star running back and your entire offense decides he's probably not going to play, and he's having a beef with the owner? So you want to start in a raw player at that? I mean, it's risky to ruin a guy's ego and ruin his headspace and how he sees the game and how he's going to develop. Like Gardner Minshew, take the beating.
Yeah. Well, it could be a situation like Justin Fields. When Justin Fields came in,
that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, when Justin Fields came in, he was drafted up in top 10 pick for in the NFL, and he didn't start the season right away, and eventually made his way in as the Bears fizzled out. So it's not a bad thing to do, in my opinion. I just know Jim Irsay and that whole organization has already said that he's going to they're going to get him into play. He has to get his reps in, so we know he's going to play. And he's going to play at some point, and what caliber. He's going at QB 16, so people are expecting him to start this season. And they're all taking a shot at him based on his athleticism. To me, I'm taking a shot as a second quarterback off the board, especially in like a dynasty league or a rookie redraft, or even a situation where you have a keeper league. Like maybe I'll take him, but where he's going 110 overall is too rich for me to take a guy as my second quarterback. That's the part I struggle with, unless you're going back-to-back picks. And you don't want to take him with a question mark anywhere else. Like you don't want to go with Tua with a question mark with his health issues, with concussions, and then take someone like Richardson who may not even start, and it may also have question marks about playing time and his output. So there's not a lot to talk about Richardson, except for, we mentioned it already when we were previously talking about other quarterbacks, is that this guy's got a terrible completion percentage in college. He's a fantastic guy when running the ball. He's got a absolute cannon of an arm, and he's just raw talent. So if they can hone in on that and get him the reps he needs, I'm just not trusting him as a starting quarterback for me in this league. I actually thought Justin Fields was a way better put together quarterback coming into the NFL than Richardson is, and Richardson's being drafted higher than Fields was that year, and Fields still struggled. And Fields still struggled last year, only throwing under 3,000 yards. He needed 1,100 rushing yards to get himself into a top 10 quarterback situation. So I don't see that for Richardson here. Moving on from Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, biggest question mark on this team. He's going as RB7, 14th overall. That has dropped in the past couple of weeks since all the news has come out. And if you haven't had a chance to check out our video and talking about Jonathan Taylor, I'll leave a little link up here in the corner for you to click and see our training camp news when we talk about Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, Broncos situation, and J.K. Dobbins. But we'll have more clarity when it comes to the season, so I can't even ask you this question in confidence saying, are you going to take a chance on Jonathan Taylor if he slips to the second round, late second round on the turn. However, at the point that we're going into drafts, at the draft season, we should have some clarity. And if there is no clarity, this guy's going to keep slipping ADP.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to evaluate this scenario. Like, I think we got some more clarity this week when the Colts signed Kenyon Drake. Now I know they're adding some more depth because of the Zach Moss injury, but Zach Moss's broken arm, he should be back by the season. Maybe he missed the first week or two. So you don't go and sign another running back and get depth there unless they really think that Jonathan Taylor is just not going to play. And I've said this. I've been on record saying this. I don't think Jonathan Taylor is going to play this season.
I don't think he should play.
Too far gone. Yeah, I mean, I think that they're too far gone in terms of I don't know how much they're going to be able to repair the relationship. I think something happened. He feels disrespected. Jim Irsay is standing his ground and saying, you're going to play out your contract with us. And he's been vocal in the media about it. The fact that like they've both brought it into the social media space and the public space, it does not bode well for like I said, I don't think this team is really cohesive right now. So yeah, it's really hard. Like I probably want to stay away from him. I'd rather draft Alvin Kamara than him. That he's gonna be. I mean, I'll let someone else deal with the headache. It's the same thing I did last year. It's like, Kamara was a guy that we were, he might have dealt with the suspension. With players like that, where there's so much uncertainty, let someone else deal with it. If they blow up, then fine. But like, go and get someone else that is going to be safe. Like, when you're sitting at that pick, just think like, do I want a guy that could be an RB, an RB1, or could not play the entire season?
Yeah.
And are you willing to waste a second or first in some cases a first round draft pick on him? I don't think Taylor's going in the first round anymore for sure, unless they in the next week or two, Jim Irsay and him are seen on a boat together partying. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
The thing about Jonathan Taylor that I think, we'll move on to the other running backs. Well, I'll talk about which running backs that I think we should possibly go for. Jonathan Taylor here in this situation, I don't think he should play in regards to his future in the NFL, because he's not going to just get lost. It's not going to be like a Melvin Gordon situation where he held out to get money and then got it and then got traded to another team and then kind of started his career fizzled out. This is a guy who's still young. He was the rushing leader 2 years ago. If it wasn't for the ankle injury, the guy was pretty good running back to start the season last year. And you look at Jonathan Taylor, if he does not play, and he wasn't a first round pick, so he doesn't have a 5th year option. If he doesn't play, unless he gets put on the non-football injury list, he doesn't get paid, but he doesn't play his season. He's a free agent. Now, if the Colts put him on the non-football injury list and it doesn't go against his a season against him, that's going to be an interesting situation. And that's where it's going to even get uglier, because they already came out and said they're not going to trade him. And why would you? Because most teams know that if they're not going to extend him and they're trying to trade him, he's going to be becoming a free agent anyway. So in my opinion, Jonathan Taylor hurts himself playing if this issue is with the contract and there's disgruntled office is going back and forth with him. If he doesn't play, he just keeps himself healthy. He just gets 1 year older, and he's still going to have value for some team moving forward. Now, the other running backs.
Well, let me say something on that really quick. Like, and here's another thing. Like, you can ask for a trade all you want. We have Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Zeke Elliott, and potentially Josh Jacobs now going to be on the market. All right. Yeah. And we've seen none of them move. So we've seen what the running back market's like out there. And so the Colts, if they're going to trade him, are probably going to get like a 5th or 6th round pick, if that, for Jonathan Taylor.
And he was a 2nd round guy. He just had one massive season. That's the other thing against him.
If I'm the Colts, yeah, and Taylor really doesn't have a leg to stand on. Like, if he had this last season, if he had his season from 2 years ago, last season too, and was continuing that, then he can make this argument all he wants. But he went down in production last season. And yeah, I get there's other struggles on the offense, but you went down in production. Now you're starting an argument about like contract disputes, and the owner is just saying, listen, you're playing out your contract. You signed the contract with us. It doesn't matter about nothing in there was with production. The CBA was negotiated with you guys, 5 years ago. You're gonna play this out, and it's unfortunate. It's a crappy situation for everyone involved. But like, I don't see them trading him just based on the fact that they're not going to get anything back. So with a guy like Taylor, I'm just like, all right, well, sit on the bench for 2 years. We're not really paying you a lot, so you can sit on the bench for 2 years or not decide not to play. But we're not going to trade you. You're going to honor your contract. And Irsay is the most tenured owner,
technically.
2 this year and 1 more.
You're right.
His rookie year, he ran for 1,800 yards, and then last year was his second year. Sophomore campaign.
No, it's not. He was 2020. He was the class of 2020, so he's got 1 more year. 2020, 2021, 2022, and he was a second-round pick, so he doesn't get his 5th-year option. So, but anyway, Let's move on. There's 3 running backs of note to talk about. If they were to sign nobody else and he was not to play, you have Zach Moss, Deion Jackson, Kenyon Drake. Zach Moss is my number 1 pick as a stash. He won't even fly up the ranks that far. The dude was very efficient last year in the last 4 weeks of the season, where he was getting 24, upwards of 24 carries, averaged about probably 15 to 18 carries. In the final 3 weeks, he had no less than a 4.9 yard per carry. In fact, the last game of the season when he played Houston, he was 18 for 114 with 6.3 and a touchdown. He was running back 3 on the season. So would I take a chance on him? Yes. I think he's not involved in the passing game. And running back through the week. Yeah. Not the season. Sorry. The week. Yeah. And the only reason I would go maybe Deion Jackson over him, because you're not going to be taking Zach Moss as your running back 2. You're taking him as a flex. This team's going to end up having to pass a lot more too as well. And Zach Moss was not involved in the passing game that often at all, both in Buffalo and the last year when he was on the field. Deion Jackson is going to be that guy, I think, for before the Indianapolis Colts, unless Kenyon Drake, who always shines when he's given the ball, comes out of nowhere and establishes himself. So again, this backfield, a little bit more clarity to come over the next 4 weeks. Let's move on to the receiving core that does have quote unquote clarity, but does not have the upside at all in this division. And that's with Michael Pittman. You mentioned Alec Pierce, Josh Downs. There's also Isaiah McKenzie there. Don't forget, all of whom you can pretty much get free for Downs and McKenzie. Pittman is going wide receiver 38, 73 overall. I think he's a wide receiver 2 at best for me, but here's some staggering stats that I think to me stand out for someone like Pierce that make him a value pick at wide receiver 38 because of his possible upside. He was number 1 for snap share amongst wide receivers. He was number 8 in terms of receptions. He was number 3 in routes run, number 2 in number 7 in win rate, number 2 in routes won as well, not just run, but won. And he was number 3 in routes won versus man coverage. So the guy's very good at catching the ball when the ball's thrown to him, because he gets up, he's got a good catch radius, good contested catch ability. Again, at wide receiver 38, he's possibly your flex player at that point, or a bench wide receiver, depending on how you draft. And I'm looking at that as a good opportunity. Am I drafting him as my wide receiver 2? No, because I think the floor can drop out of him really quickly, depending upon who's at quarterback and how this team's doing. So the other wide receivers, I'm not even touching, again, because 8th in passing attempts last year, they could be up in the top 10 in passing attempts this year, but if Anthony Richardson's playing, I don't expect 20th in passing yardage and that efficiency and volume to go up anymore. I don't, you had Matt Ryan, who was a very good quarterback, not being able to do it there. You had a carousel the past couple of years that haven't been able to do it there. I just don't see it getting much better situation for them. What are your thoughts on Pittman? Is that somebody that you are going to try and target as a late pick, or is this some guy that you're, no matter what, because this offense, you're just steering clear of?
Yeah, like I'm not steering clear of him, and I'm not there. There's another guy on this team that I really like at his value, which is free. Love me a free player. I just really do. But Pittman is a guy like Pierce, where I'd rather him slip around or two before I draft him. I still would like to have him. Like again, as a flex play, like that's not a flex play, a bench guy. Like having depth, especially he's a wide receiver one on that team, and he's a true wide receiver one on that team, and he's a guy that can go up there and win 50-50 balls. I like guys like that where it's just like, screw it, chuck the ball downfield, chuck the ball to him. Especially with an inaccurate throw like Anthony Richardson, just chuck the ball up there, let's see if he can get it. I'm not overdrafting him. Like again, I'm not drafting him to be a wide receiver one. I'm sure as heck not drafting him to be a wide receiver two. I think there's better values there that I can get. There's different draft strategies that I would rather implement to not have him as my wide receiver two. And I think there are guys going around him that I would probably prefer to have over him in a wide receiver two role. As a flex play, I like him.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the wide receivers that are going around him. Hold on. Before you get into that, let's finish with Pittman. Brandon Ayuk's one spot before him, overall and receiver-wise. Tyler Lockett's two picks after him. Marquise Brown is 3 picks after him. Mike Evans is 5 picks after him. Deontay Johnson 6. So like those are the names that you're deciding, and those guys I think have better opportunities than he does, whether they're the wide receiver 2 or 1 for their team. So that's my thought on Pittman too. Is I feel like Pittman's too rich for that 7-8 turn. I'm getting him on the 8-9 turn if he falls. So, Josh Downs I know is your guy.
My free. Yeah, Josh Downs is the guy that for free that I would want to get, especially if you're in a dynasty sleeper league. This guy I think is going to be. He's very similar to Tank Dell. I don't know what it is about these short receivers that I like, but I like guys that are productive in college, especially that are if they play D1 and they're this size and they're catching over 100 balls and they're catching over 1,000 yards and they're catching over double-digit touchdowns. Like there's something to say about that. And you can argue that they're playing in weaker conferences all you want. They get open all the time and they make catches and they're efficient. And especially with mobile scrambling quarterbacks and the way the NFL is moving, you want possession guys. You want guys that catch the ball and can move in space and get open. And Downs is a guy that can absolutely do that. So he's a late flyer. Again, a guy that you can get in the 14th, 15th round or just pick up off waivers, but it's someone to keep an eye on, especially in training camp. He's been impressive so far and has developed kind of a rapport with Anthony Richardson already. So, yeah, it's a guy I like opposite Pittman. Again, Downs is a guy you can move into the slot. You can play on the outside. So I would definitely keep an eye on him.
All right, let's round off the Colts with talking about the tight end position. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because they shift around with the tight ends here and there, but Jelani Woods is number 1 on the depth chart. Here's the only thing I will say, and if you look at the pattern amongst these running quarterbacks, they all tend to have a tight end that has good production in the NFL. When you look at what Cole Kmet did in Chicago last year, what the tight ends have done in Buffalo over the course of years, Dawson Knox, and now they've got Dalton Kincaid there, who should see a decent uptick. You look at Jalen Hurts with Dallas Goedert, like these guys are producing. So because when you scramble, probably the closest target to you and probably the most open target to get or guy to get open is going to be your tight end. Again, that doesn't make me want to draft a Colts tight end just because Anthony Richardson's going to be starting at some point if he does, because Mo Alley Cox could be in there for a bunch of snaps. Jelani Woods would be in there for a bunch of snaps. There's just no definite person that's going to be in there. I'm sticking clear of this